Hello and welcome to the show. It is Unbossed and I am Nina Turner. And in the co-host chair today is none other than Jackson White. Action Jackson is in the house. Jackson, how you doing today? And is there anything happening on Rebel HQ that we need to know about?
Well, I'm doing pretty good today. Yeah, it's a trope now. It's pretty much a meme now that I got laundry to do. So I still got that, So it's always a thing with me. So after that, I'm getting on. After this, I'm getting on that rather. Other than that, I'll just say gear up for the 2024 presidential elections, the primaries, and everything that's going to be going on with that. That's really going to be ramping up because Donald Trump is absolutely back. So
he's
gonna be ramping
back.
up with that. Yep.
He back live and in living color. Yes, he is. Now you had me fooled with that button down though, Jackson. I'm telling you, I thought laundry was all taken care of already.
Yeah, that's it. That's that pretty boy deception. You know what I'm saying? Like coming on, putting on a couple of things. You feel me? Looking like I got all my stuff together right now. No,
all GQ.
That's not the case. That's not the case. I just have no clean t-shirts right now.
No clean t-shirts. So we certainly appreciate all that honesty right here on Unbossed, baby. We give it to you just the way it's coming. And speaking of giving it to you just the way it's coming, on today's show, we're going to talk about how the increased SNAP benefits from the pandemic are set to expire, leaving 30 million people in jeopardy of going hungry, being food insecure. I mean, pick your word, but this really doesn't make a whole lot of sense since the pandemic is not over, or at least the ripple effects of the pandemic is not over. And some of the medical doctors that I've talked to, they say that the pandemic is not over. So I think I'm gonna go with them for 500, Alex. The GOP ghouls are at it again. This time they're coming for Jackson, Mississippi. We're gonna go there and talk about that. And later in the show, Meatball is out and Desanctimonious is in. I don't think Desanctimonious was ever out, but Donald J. Trump has made a decision. It remains Desanctimonious. So we're gonna start first with how 30 million people face aid cuts. I sigh deeply. Watch this.
Mr. Speaker, this week, millions of Americans will see their SNAP benefits drastically reduced when emergency allotments end. These supplemental benefits have been a lifeline for families, and I'm deeply disappointed they're ending. One family in Western Massachusetts, for example, says the reduction will mean having to choose between healthy foods or therapies for their young son with Down syndrome. And there are thousands of other heart-wrenching stories just like this. Congress must thoroughly examine benefit adequacy. The average benefit of $2 a meal just is not enough. We can do and must do more to end hunger now.
Rep. McGovern is absolutely right about that. And you heard his words, a lifeline. This probably seems unthinkable, but that was Massachusetts Representative Jim McGovern talking about the urgent need for extending SNAP benefits, which are set to expire for millions of Americans literally today. And it really makes no sense to me in the type of world that I see. And for us to be a hegemon nation, that this representative has to stand on the floor of the House of Representatives and beg his fellow colleagues and also the president of the United States to do something about this. It is one of those things that makes you want to holler. Let's put up this headline: a decent society would not let this happen. 30 million across US face food aid cuts. What a very fitting headline. This is coming from Jessica of Common Dreams. Thank you, Jessica. A decent society. Let's underline, underscore, bold that, put it exclamation point in a message in a bottle on the train, not carrying chemicals going through East Palestine, Ohio, shall we? Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP benefits, were initially increased at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. And although Republicans in 18 states had already ended the emergency allotment, households in the other 32 states, along with Washington, D.C., Guam, and the US Virgin Islands, have continued to receive them. Shame on those 18 Republican states. I mean, they really just don't give a damn. America, do y'all see this? I mean, just to deny people food. This is not the first time. Unfortunately, it won't be the last time. But even in the face of a pandemic, these fools won't take the aid on behalf of their people. Really. However, the increased SNAP benefits are set to end Wednesday, and that is today, because of the omnibus spending package from December. Federal lawmakers traded the temporary pandemic era boost for a permanent program to feed children in the summer. Let me get this right. They traded. They made a trade. Yeah, Jessica wrote that. They traded. As if people are expendable, which they do treat people as if they're expendable, especially if you're among the poor and the working poor and the barely middle class. Yeah, you are very much expendable in the United States of America. The lowest income families will lose $95 in benefits a month, but some SNAP participants, such as many elderly and disabled people who live alone and on fixed incomes and who only qualify for the minimum amount of help, will see their benefits plummet from $281 to $23 flipping dollars a month. Now stop right there. Access to food should not be a commodity that you trade one for another. There is something seriously wrong, America, and only we can make these changes. The types of elected officials that would deny people the extra aid, especially in the face of a pandemic, need not be elected officials because they're not working in your interest. They're not working in anybody's interest. Why would we want anybody to be food insecure or just flat out hungry? Why would we? Why would we? Why, oh why, oh why would we? And Congress may want to trade stocks, but they sure as hell will not get away with selling out kids and families. But we gotta stand up though. Forcing them to choose between rent and putting food on the table. That's really what they're doing. This is a policy choice. Poverty, America, is a choice. Poverty is a policy choice. We know this. We got recent evidence, we got historical evidence, we got evidence of this because the child tax credit that was once upon a time, old enough to remember it, lifted millions of children out of poverty only to catapult them back into poverty once it was not renewed and expanded. Yes, indeed, sisters and brothers, family and friends, America, poverty is a policy choice. Where in the unholy hell were the Democrats when they had control of the House and of the Senate? I'm just trying to understand why the 117th Congress allowed it to come to this. They allowed Senator Kyrsten Sinema and Shadow President Joe Manchin to bully them out of expanding these programs. I'm particularly talking about the child tax credit, and it's purely disgusting. Did you hear me, America? Purely disgusting. Deanna Hardy, a mother of two from Wisconsin, told her story to ABC News. This is what she said. We're really going to struggle. We're going to have to end up going back to cheaper items like noodles and processed stuff because the meat, the dairy, fruits, and veggies, it's expensive. I don't think the cuts could have happened at a worse time. When the extra payments began, food prices were nowhere near where they are now. And that is coming from Deanna Hardy. She's a mother. She said this to ABC News, and she is absolutely right. Can't afford eggs and can barely afford the chicken wings. And these geniuses decide to let this just go away. Poof. But when it comes to giving money to the military industrial complex, baby, they can do that in a New York minute with bipartisanship. The cost of eggs, for example, let's look at this monthly average is on the rise. This chart right here, and right now in December, the average cost is $4.25. And check out this tweet from the Patriotic Millionaires. Expand SNAP benefits in today and will push 32 million Americans off a hunger cliff. But hey, it's all good. Because according to Moody's Analytics, people not being able to buy food will reduce inflation. Are you out of your mind? Let me tell you something. If we have a financial system in this country that depends on people not eating, depends on people being unemployed, depends on people hanging on by the edge every single day of their lives, depends on people working 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 jobs, not getting a chance to smell the roses or tiptoe through the tulips. The system is wrong and it is rigged. Jackson, I can't even right now.
Well, and I think what we're dealing with here and whether in all the sectors is kind of like a cat out of the bag situation where our problems have run away from us and gotten so far ahead of us that without drastic action and really large policy pushes, there's really nothing that can change in any type of meaningful way. With so much corruption in and out the system, the Supreme Court and just federal judges, politicians in office in appointed positions, elected and appointed positions, really just kind of being there as a matter of career, as a matter of climbing up the corporate ladder, because corporate America and the federal government and local and state governments are so connected. Again, what we really need is drastic policy push. Because these types of problems just spiral upon themselves, like as a result of the increased cost of living. This wouldn't be as big of an issue if people didn't have to pay so much for rent, if people didn't have to pay so much for education, if people weren't so steeped in debt, if housing wasn't so expensive. Stuff like that makes stuff like this even worse. On top of the fact that, the more people we have going into poverty because they can't eat or because they can't pay their bills, the more social safety net we're going to need, or the more chaos we're going to have in the streets if we don't take care of people. So, like you said, we're in a system that really depends upon people being stricken with poverty. The idea that everybody can just be totally well off in a system like this, well off to what degree? You know what I'm saying? Like, how well off are we talking? So
it defies all kinds of logic, and it really speaks to the immorality of the system. And it's not just the SNAP benefits that millions are going to lose. Let's take a look at this headline: millions to lose Medicaid coverage this spring as omnibus bill is enacted and COVID-19 public health emergency ends. You all may remember we talked about this on this show where the Senate just kind of declared and the president, the pandemic is over. They just declared it. Ain't consult nobody. Because they ain't been to the hoods where people misunderstood. Because if they had been to the hoods where people are misunderstood, they would have told them that the pandemic for them is not over. But they didn't care. Now, we gotta talk, we gotta make this correlation here that the GOP and the neoliberals will tell you that expanding Social Security, expanding SNAP benefits, and implementing universal health care is just too expensive. But when it comes to their first love, and it's not the people, it is the military industrial complex. They will do anything for that lover. Let's put up this headline: Congress approves $858 billion with a B. Military budget, 45 billion more than requested by Biden. Now, do y'all see why this is messed up America? Are you with me on this? Can I get an amen on this? 45 billion more than what was requested was given. Congress approves $858 billion military budget. And most of this budget is not benefiting our enlisted men and women. It is going to these contractors. Do you hear me, America? There is something wrong with the soul of this country to allow people to go hungry, to deliberately allow. Again, because they cannot be consulting with their constituents, because if they were, they would know that all is not well. And this next headline: US aid commitment to Ukraine, largest since US war in Iraq. To quote the urban poet Tupac, we got money for wars, but we can't feed the poor. Timeless words from the urban poet. Got money for wars. We seeing this in real time right now, not yesterday, not 2 years from now. Money for wars, but cannot feed the poor. In total, Congress has approved more than $112 billion with a B in aid to Ukraine. And Biden has promised more. He let them know. He was over there, flew over there, but didn't come to East Palestine. And he let them know, hey, we got more money for you. You see what the problem is, America, is that you cannot take care of everybody else and neglect the people at home. Now, in the Bible that I read, it says charity starts at home and then spreads abroad. And you ain't got to be religious or spiritual to understand that concept. For those of us who've ever flown on an airplane, you know what the stewardesses, they tell us right when they giving us that visual, they checking us out, they making sure you seat belted and everything, and they say the following to you: should the mask come down, Now we hoping that it don't come down. It probably will not come down. We gonna make it from point A to point B most likely. But should it come down, put the mask on yourself first before aiding somebody else. Can I get a hello somebody or an amen on that? For every dollar that is sent over to our Ukrainian sisters and brothers and family and friends, we ought to be spending $2 over here. Is that too much to ask? But these geniuses are gonna let these programs that were giving people a lift, they're gonna let them expire. Because see, the people that are hurting the most right now, they were hurting before the pandemic. But these folks don't give a damn, America. They just don't. I mean, I hate to be the bearer of this kind of news, but you gotta know by their actions and how they're spending our money that they don't give a damn. We need to make some new decisions, America. As Jackson said, 2024 is fast approaching. We need to make some new decisions, all right? All right, we're gonna keep up on this. We need to be raising hell. We should be out in the streets right now, like France. Jesus, we too complicit in our own demise. Oh, I definitely sigh deeply. Okay, I'm gonna keep on sighing on this one, y'all. We going to Jackson, Mississippi. Now, we brought this story to your attention a couple of weeks ago. The GOP in Mississippi is looking to carve out a separate judicial district for the white residents in the majority Black city of Jackson, Mississippi. And during an interview with Joy Reid on MSNBC, Jackson Mayor Chiwak Lumumba said the following about the proposed law. Listen to this.
It can be possible that the capital of Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi, is, I think to your point, going to be governed under apartheid style.
Well, I think that to speak to it honestly, I'm reflecting on the words of Coach Dennis Green, who once said that they are who we thought they were. As we've been calling out these clearly racist policies, that has been done much to the chagrin of state leadership, saying that we're giving Mississippi a black eye. And to be clear, it is not our words that give Mississippi a black eye. It is the actions that they're taking, actions that will not allow or disenfranchise voters in Jackson, Mississippi. This particular law is fraught with constitutional violations, equal protection. It is seeking to create a district which is the most densely white populated area in the city of Jackson. In addition to a police force or a militarized force that does not have direct accountability to the residents. Within the district that already exists, there have been numerous claims of issues of police misconduct that are not being challenged, that are not being followed up on. And so there's a multitude of concerns here.
A multitude of concerns here. You just heard that from Mayor Lumumba, and he called it what it is: apartheid, separation based on race, unequal treatment based on race. This is happening. We went through an apartheid moment in this country already, and here we go again. Team, let's put up this headline. A proposed takeover has sparked a battle for power in one of America's blackest big cities. Yeah, majority African Americans live there. Now, according to the reporting from CNN, a proposal in the Mississippi legislature to reshape Jackson's criminal justice system has erupted into a high-stakes battle between the Republican-dominated state government and the blackest big city in the US over some of the most incendiary flashpoints of American politics: voting rights, public safety, and race. We just cannot. Mississippi, seriously? I mean, the Nina Simone song comes to mind every single time I think about you. And that song was Goddamn Mississippi. Mississippi Goddamn, that was the name of the song. Now, if y'all ain't heard that song, I go ahead and take a listen to Nina Simone. Pour that out. This is the 21st century version of that. Now, Republican state lawmakers are pushing a takeover of the city of Jackson and disenfranchising local voters. They're banking on us to be quiet. They're banking on us to back down. That is coming from a local activist, Danielle, making it plain. And at the time she was making this plain at this meeting that they were having in a church, she was wearing a t-shirt that read Jackson versus everybody. She ain't lying. The Mississippi Criminal Justice Bill, which passed The State House of Representatives earlier this month would create a new separate court system in a district that includes Jackson's downtown and a third of its residents. Judges and prosecutors in the district would be appointed by state government officials, encroaching on the power of locally elected judges to hear some cases. Do you hear this? Let's put up this map of what it would look like. We've shown you this map before. You see that? Are y'all feeling, you vibing with that? Do you see how they carved all that out? You know, all the black, this is what they doing in the 21st century. It's 2023, not 1823. And the Mississippi Senate passed a more watered down version of the Jackson Takeover bill. Still bad, but a little more watered down. But the more egregious and aggressive version or portions could be added back in either of these chambers before all is said and done. Both versions of legislation would greatly expand the jurisdiction of the Capitol Police, a state government-controlled police force that has been criticized by local leaders for aggressive tactics and multiple shootings by officers. And the mayor finally saying this, it is taking us back in time. And it puts us on the wrong side of history. It's colonization. You better call it what it is, Mayor. It's apartheid. Say it one more time, Mayor. It's the worst of what Mississippi can be. Jackson, Mississippi is 83% black. But you got these geniuses in the state legislature of Mississippi trying to take it over. Jackson White, what say you?
Well, in addition to this, actually, I was covering something earlier. The Mississippi governor just signed a bill banning various kinds of transgender healthcare for minors. So, and the story that we just covered before this. So it's, really kind of hard to keep up with everything that's going on, not just in this regard, but also, look at what happened just with the reversal of Roe v. Wade, the number of red states, the wave that happened. So this rhetoric, as we point out all the time, actually leads to real types of policy changes. I believe there were 300 bills proposed for the same type of thing that happened with the transgender banning in Mississippi across, in terms of the healthcare across the United States. So these aren't empty threats. This isn't empty rhetoric. It works for the base. This is what they want to see. So at the same time that they rally people together in terms of strengthening that core voting group, they actually pass laws that end up making a negative difference in people's lives. So, this is only going to continue to ramp up. But more importantly, I think it's important that people understand that these are the times that we live in. And this is what we're dealing with. This isn't going to go away unless we defeat it.
Yeah, we got to defeat it. You know what, Jackson, we're no longer reading about these things. Reading about the Montgomery bus boycott, reading about civil rights leaders and champions. And I'm not just talking about people with the most fancy titles, but the everyday people that decided to walk across the Edmund Pettus Bridge and face the law enforcement running over them and those kinds of things. We're not just reading about it anymore. We're living it. We are actually going backwards in time in the United States of America. And this should be unacceptable to anybody that considers themselves a patriot. I said it. It should be totally and unequivocally unacceptable for anybody that believes in freedom and justice for all. Let that marinate. We're gonna stay on this story. We'll be back after this.
Welcome to Indisputable. I'm your host, Dr. Rashad Richard. We got a lot happening today. But what do we do on this show? We tell the truth. You know why we tell the truth? Because the truth is simply indisputable.
Rashad, great to be here. Congratulations on the new show. And I gotta let everybody know that Rashad and I go way back.
Here's the pattern that we see in all of these Karen stories. They think they own stuff they do not own. Now, where does that come from? I don't know, maybe slavery. Maybe they think they should still own black people.
This is what happens when Karens weaponize the police.
When you're used to privilege, equality seems like oppression.
It hits you in a certain way when someone is holding you against your will, treating you like you're a criminal and you're an innocent person. This is something that black people face no matter where they are.
A stronger black economy lends itself to a stronger, greater economy. Don't think it's exclusive of you, it's inclusive of you.
What's your beef with critical race theory?
It adds more fuel to the fire of the racist tendencies that we already have.
We have a generation of problems problem solvers that can remedy the problem if they are properly taught what the problem is.
You know who created redlining in this country? The white liberal.
I don't give a damn who created it. If it's a racist policy, Shelley, here's what I don't know. I don't know. See, there you go filibustering, brother. You're scared of this truth, but you're gonna get it, though.
Climate is changing fundamentally, extremely, and non-linearly. It's becoming worse now. It's not when the levees burst that is the problem. It's in the anticipation of that.
So I hope every human being is safe. And by human beings, I do not include multinational corporations, especially the ones that started climate change in the first place.
What we're currently doing right now in cutting emissions is clearly not enough. There will be ramifications to what Trump is doing. I don't want people to suffer, but I feel like there's going to be a lot of suffering because we have an imbecile as our leader.
And welcome back to the show. My favorite part, reading viewer comments. But before we get there, I'm gonna let you know that the watch list is airing directly after Unbossed. So just go ahead and stay here. You ain't even got to turn the station. Just stay right here at the watch list with J.R. Jackson. Freddie, how you doing? I'm doing a shout out to Freddie. And then the progress report. If you haven't already subscribe right now. Go ahead, put that smartphone and scan that QR code right there. It's progressive news and inspiration every weekday morning, baby. You need to go ahead and get that. They give you the news like nobody else on that progress report. And then Unbossed is also on a podcast. You can get it wherever you get your podcast. If you happen to miss us in real time, go ahead and listen to us on your drive. Do that. And send it to a friend. It's one of the best hours they can have of their day. Now on to comments. Let us start with the TYT members. Shy Coltrane. Hey, Shy. While the elderly, the vulnerable, and weak go hungry, those in power go to bed with their bellies full. You better say that, Shy Coltrane. Lockheed Martin, LE, and corporations always have a buffet at the expense of those losing snap. Amen, underline, underscore, exclamation point. You preach that sermon, Shy Coltrane. There it is. And on Twitch, Don, hey Don, turn the sprinkler systems on because Nina and Jackson are on fire! Exclamation point. Yeah, we are. That's how we roll.
Yep, it's always a good time. Each and every time. Yep, every Wednesday.
Always a good time, yes. And on YouTube, Super Chat, Hoover. Hey, Hoover. Neoliberals were content with Trump being gone. You better say that. I'm gonna repeat that one more good time. Neoliberals were content with Trump being gone and still are. But it's his minions like the GOP in Jackson, Mississippi that they forgot about while they put up their Black Lives Matter signs and said, job well done. Now we're seeing the dangers of that ignorance. Hoover, you preaching down so many streets today. Just gone, people need to go ahead and say, ouch, if Hoover's preaching down your street. You got that right. All they wanted to do was go back to brunch, and that is exactly what they have done while members of the GOP turn back the hands of time all over this country through state legislatures and governors' matches. That's how it's happening. So preach that sermon, Hoover. And Rebecca, hey, Rebecca, Nina, I've missed you too much. It's so good to hear your voice and your face again. Thank you so much for that, Rebecca. Thank you, Hoover. Thank you, Don. Thank you, Shy Coltrane. And many thanks to all of our viewers. We could not get to all of the comments, but you have been represented very well today. We thank you for your support of Unbossed, and we definitely thank you for your support of the TYT Network. Texas inmates, we're going to Texas. We done been to Mississippi, now we're going to Texas, and this ain't good either. Texas inmates are making their voices heard on the dangers of solitary confinement. Watch.
The prisoners want a change in the way that Texas prison officials use indefinite solitary confinement. Right now, about 3,100 prisoners are being held in solitary, and hundreds of them have been held that way for more than a decade.
fits the cruel and unusual punishment category, but we've been doing it in this country for such a long time. Check out this headline. Texas inmates say decade after decade of solitary confinement is torture. This reporting is coming from The Guardian. Thank you, Ed, for writing this, and I happen to agree with that. A group of inmates even participated in a 21-day hunger strike, which ended on January the 30th. The reporting goes further, with thousands kept in the dangerously isolating conditions. Often for years or decades, a group of men decided last year they wanted to make their voices heard. On January the 10th, as many as 300 men at prisons across the state had signed on to begin a hunger strike to protest Texas solitary confinement practices. That is coming from the Texas Tribune. And Paul Flahive, a reporter for the Texas Public Radio, detailed the horrors of what these inmates are experiencing while in solitary confinement. Watch this.
My understanding is that they're held in their cells for as much as 22 hours a day. In a complaint that they filed with the state legislature, they emailed a bunch of legislators documents about their conditions. They said that they, at times during the pandemic, didn't have access to outside recreation for years, for months oftentimes, that they had access to showers once a week.
I want to use some harsher words than what I should use right now, but it's a blankety blank shame that in America this is happening. And Guadalupe Constantine, one of the inmates who participated in the hunger strike, painted a picture of that isolation. He said, "I went on a hunger strike to bring attention to this torture. I haven't had contact with my wife, kids, brothers and sisters, parents and grandparents in 17 years. I miss not being able to go outside or just sit at a table and talk to people without having to yell out your door or through the walls. I haven't held my kids in 17 years. The only touch I have had in this time is when an officer comes to put on the handcuffs." And again, that is coming from Guadalupe Constantine, a Texas inmate. This is really, it is sad. It's cruel and unusual punishment. Jackson, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, there's nothing about this that can rehabilitate people in any type of way. I mean, honestly, like if it's between this and that, like just, taking somebody out in a lot of ways is less cruel because of the type of damage it does over time compared to just dying instantly and then just having your socialization. In a lot of ways, your humanity stripped from you because we're social creatures and we can't escape that. Much of what makes our lives positive at all, no matter what our circumstances are, is determined by the health of our relationships. Much of what makes us happy or not happy is the impact of the relationships that we have. So like you mentioned, even things like just being able to sit down and eat with people, talk with people up close, it's little things like that that make us human. So when you take that away from people, especially over extended periods of time like that, I mean, you're really just making it such that, people who hold it together, that's just really nothing short of a miracle of strength. But there's definitely people who completely lose their minds in that same type of situation.
Yeah, and it is a fine line, as they say, between sanity and insanity. And it really seems like this system is not designed at all to rehabilitate. You need to take those words out or adhere to the words rehabilitate. And Jackson, as you laid out, we are very social creatures and touch is one of the most powerful forces for us. And Guadalupe just really laid that out. Solitary confinement is in fact torture and it needs to end. Let's put up this headline. The research is clear. Solitary confinement causes long-lasting harm. At the International Symposium on Solitary Confinement, researchers and formerly incarcerated people made it clear that isolation causes severe and permanent damage. And here are some examples of the effects of solitary confinement. Visual and auditory hallucinations, hypersensitivity to noise and touch, insomnia and paranoia, uncontrollable feelings of rage and fear, post-traumatic stress disorder. American Friends Service Committee put out this list and it totally makes sense. I mean, just imagine if this were you or somebody that you loved. And even short stays in solitary confinement has some consequences. Short stays in solitary confinement can increase recidivism and also unemployment, because right now you're trained, you can't even function in real society because of being placed in solitary confinement. Now, Christopher Wildman and Lars Anderson, both researchers for the Rockwood Foundation Research Unit in Denmark, conducted a study on this correlation. And this is what they found. Being placed in solitary confinement, they found increased the risk of being convicted of another crime within 3 years after release by about 15%. That's a pretty massive increase. Weidman said, considering recidivism rates are already as high as 50 to 60%. So again, if rehabilitation really is the goal, especially given that most people who go to prison are coming back out, don't you want them to come out better and more hopeful? Or do you want them to come out worse and more dejected than when they went in? Does not make a whole lot of sense morally, and does not make a whole lot of sense economically either. It's throwing good money after bad. We're truly, truly making people worse. And I want you to take a look at this chart detailing the increase in premature death from solitary confinement. Solitary confinement increases the risk of premature death after release. Among people who died after release from prison, those exposed to solitary confinement were more likely to die from suicide, homicide, or opioid overdose. My God. And so on that one side of the screen, on the left side, you see no solitary confinement. And on the right side, any solitary confinement. And it is very, very, very clear what is happening here. So it really, really is a time to put an end to this practice. It's abhorrent. It is a waste of taxpayers' dollars. And there is absolutely, and I mean absolutely, no benefit morally or economically to this practice if in fact our goal as a society is to have people pay their debt to society and come out better. If the goal is to put them in there, lock them up, throw away the key, and you don't care how they come out, then we batting 1,000 on that one. But if the goal is truly to rehabilitate and help people take a different path, then we need to do things differently, America. What is done in our name, either abroad or right here at home, it does matter. We need to get more involved in these types of things because nobody is safe with this. Did you hear what I said? Most of the folks who go away, they come back. And the condition that they come back in matters for all of us. It's a ripple effect. We can't escape it. So we should want our sisters and brothers, our family and friends who have transgressed and paid their debt to society to come out better than what they went in. God knows we should not want them to come out worse. This does not have to be the reality. Just like poverty is a policy choice, this is a choice as well. We can do better and we must do better. All right, let's do that. Well, Trump wants the whole world to know that he has a nickname update, and here it is. President Donald J. Trump wants everybody to know that he has updated the nickname. He went from Meatball to Desanctimonious. I weighed in on this before. I'm all for Desanctimonious. I don't even know where he got the meatball from, but you heard it here, folks. The former president is still searching for a decent nickname for the governor of Florida, the man known as DeSantis. And now that he said he's settling. It's Desanctimonious because I guess he figured he can't do any better.
Quite a bit of news on Truth Social and on your recent rallies with your new nickname for the governor of Florida, Ron Desanctimonious. Mr. G, somebody else has come up with another nickname. What is the nickname you have for us, Jeff?
It's got to be Ron Destablishment.
Mr. President, Ron Destablishment. What do you think of that?
That's not bad. I've heard worse. You know, they came out with lots of different names. Meatball, I didn't like that one too much, but they came out with a lot of different names, and that's not bad. I've heard of worse.
Yep, president said he's heard worse. That was him speaking to Sebastian Gorka on the podcast America First. Your thoughts, Jackson?
Well, I mean, we're gonna have to brace ourselves for many more names. And look, at the end of the day, Ron DeSantis has yet to announce his campaign, and at this point, he's getting weaker by the day that he doesn't. I really don't think he wants to run. He's more so being pushed into it. 4 polls were just released that shows Trump's support going pretty high past DeSantis's, from Emerson, Yahoo News, YouGov. Then there was a Fox News poll, and the other one was from, I want to get it right, Echelon Insights, which is a Republican polling firm, that all showed Donald Trump's approval rating gone up since he's done things like go to East Palestine, which we pointed out that Joe Biden hadn't done, and Pete Buttigieg took a variety of weeks to do. Yeah. So, I mean, in a lot of ways, in every way, really, Trump is back. And, we talked about before how Mike Pence went on to CNBC and for 5 minutes straight talked about cutting Social Security and Medicare. And Ron DeSantis wants to cut Social Security, which Donald Trump has been attacking. So it's just, in my opinion, it's kind of already over. It's kind of already over. I mean, obviously, it's very early to say that, but I am not seeing anything from Ron DeSantis to suggest that he's just going to come into the race and just knock all of this over to the side and get Trump out of here. Like, well, the days are going by and you ain't doing it. So, that's the reality.
He's not ready, Jackson. He's not ready for what Trump about to lay down on his behind. This is going to be most entertaining. Maybe not so good for America, but very entertaining. So last month, the New York Times revealed that the former president referred to DeSantis as Meatball Ron and shut down Ron in private conversations. Let's take a look at this headline: DeSantis's challenge, when and how to counterattack Trump. Well, he ain't gonna be able to. Let's just put that out there, because Trump gonna out-Trump him. As the former president lobs insults and calls him Ron Desanctimonious, Governor Ron DeSantis is carefully avoiding conflict. But if he runs for president, as expected, a clash is inevitable. You got that right, New York Times. It is absolutely inevitable.
He
and
don't
Trump,
want it, man.
I mean, but Jack, Trump living for this.
Yeah.
He living. He want this. He wants this to happen. And Trump didn't like that being public information, so he ranted on his platform, Truth Social, about it. And this is what Donald J. Trump put out. All of the fake news is reporting that I spend large amounts of my time coming up with good nicknames for Ron Desanctimonious, who is obviously going to give the presidential thing a shot. They are 100% wrong. I don't even think about it. A very unimportant subject to me. He just saying Desanctimonious ain't even worth me thinking about. I done named the brother already, okay? And are you team Meatball or Desanctimonious? I would have to say there's very little that I ever will agree with Donald J. Trump about, but I got it. Desanctimonious is it for me.
Yeah, me too. I agree. Desanctimonious definitely sticks. And we're gonna Ron DeSantis is becoming a meme very slowly. Ron de blank. We're gonna be saying that like crazy, millions and millions of posts. Yeah. But I mean, really, I think it would really he would much rather just be like, I'll wait till 2028. And I won't be surprised if he does it, because again, man, he's got to come out with that sauce to win this race, and he doesn't have it.
He don't have it. He should wait. But look, I don't want this man to be president at all in any way. I mean, look at how he's destroying Florida. For the love of God, please, America, don't send this man to the White House. But no, he don't want none of this Trump. No. So we are on our way to the Supreme Court. That is up to really nothing good. Take a look at this.
Democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like.
Even in my position, I have no prospect of buying a home.
Why are we here tonight? Student loan debt is waiting on hold for hours and hours.
Yeah, those were protesters saying, please, Supreme Court, don't do this. They were outside of the Supreme Court yesterday. This comes as the justices began to weigh in on the validity of Biden's student loan forgiveness plan. Unsurprisingly, the conservative justices are skeptical. Over more than 3 hours of arguments in 2 cases, conservatives led by Chief Justice John G. Roberts Jr. questioned how what Roberts repeatedly called a $500 billion program could be implemented without more direct involvement from Congress, which controls the purse of federal spending. I just got to pause here, sisters and brothers and family and friends. That pause has been on since President Donald J. Trump. The president has the power and authority to do this because of the Education Act of 1965. That's how. But maybe the justices didn't know that, but I'm letting them know now because I know they all watching them, boss. The justices on the right seemed unsatisfied with assertions from their liberal colleagues and U.S. Solicitor General Elizabeth B. Prelogar that blocking the program would actually thwart the will of Congress, which provided for the Secretary of Education to act on student loan debt in times of emergency. And my God, we are in an emergency because we still in a pandemic. Maybe if them fools hadn't rolled back the pandemic emergency, they could have used that as an argument too. But that's just me. Now here's a refresher on the plan, otherwise known as the HEROES Act. It would eliminate up to $10,000 of student debt for borrowers earning up to $125,000 annually or up to $250,000 for married couples. Those who receive Pell Grants, a form of financial aid for low and middle income students, are eligible for an additional $10,000 in forgiveness. This reporting coming from the Washington Post. Now, to be honest, the whole thing doesn't go far enough. Just go ahead and cancel all of the student debt. Isn't it amazing how we've had presidents tell us that the banks were too big to fail, that we got to save Wall Street, all of this. But when it comes to saving the folks on Main Street, just cannot seem to do that. Now, Justice Roberts cited Congress's involvement in the process. This is what he said. He said, I think most casual observers would say, if you're going to give up that much amount of money, as if it's his money, I guess he does pay taxes, some of it is his. If you're going to affect the obligations of that many Americans on the subject that's of great controversy, they would think that's something for Congress to act on. Hey, the justice ain't wrong. I mean, Congress should have acted on it, but they didn't. But the president of the United States of America has the authority whether or not Congress acts. And speaking of Congress, Senator Elizabeth Warren and Representative Cori Bush both joined protesters outside of the Supreme Court. First, here is Senator Warren.
I've actually read the HEROES Act that authorizes the president to take this action. Law. But I also know it because it is exactly what Donald Trump did. He canceled billions of dollars of interest payments that were coming due. He canceled them for poor people and for middle class people, but most definitely for rich people. And not one Republican, not one, raised an objection.
Senator Elizabeth Warren letting it be known when it comes to the ultra wealthy in this country, the GOP don't say a mumbling word. And hell, barely Democrats say, the corporatist types say a mumbling word either, because they always right there cheerleading as well. But Senator Warren is laying it down. And here's what Representative Cori Bush had to say.
This is an obligation that they have. These oral arguments that started today, yeah, they just begun, but we see how these Republican AGs, how they built this case on this foundation, but y'all, is nothing but smoke and mirrors.
It is a foundation of not only smoke and mirrors, it is a foundation on sand. And you know what happens when you try to build a foundation on sand. The liberal justices on the court, they made their voices heard as well. Liberal Justice Elena Kagan noted the court often faces difficulty in trying to understand Congress's intent in passing legislation. This one is not, she said. Let's underline that, bolded, underscored, referring to the Higher Education Relief Opportunities for Students Act of 2003. She added, Congress doesn't get much clearer. Go ahead on, Justice Kagan. Jackson White.
Well, I think this comes back to the $45 billion extra dollars in the military budget that we talked about how there's extra money to pay for education, to make up for what's missing in terms of people not being able to afford it. But also, the second most important thing is that actions like this, the only logical end point is that they're just trying to keep the class structure and the power structure what it is. Because there's no economic argument for freeing up people from debt because they'll have more money to put into the economy. They, will be able to put more into savings, invest more, what have you. And there's no real social argument for it either because many other nations around the world provide more affordable access to education, among other things like healthcare and what have you. So other than keeping the power structures what they are, there's really no good reason to knock this down, especially when all the other liberal judges are against it. There's no mix. There's no real argument philosophically going on. It's just a matter of doing what they want to do.
Yeah, this is so true, Jackson. It's very disappointing that they were even going down this road. We just cancel it all, and they gotta really change the system, period. Because you cancel student debt and you keep the same faulty system, we right back where we started from.
Yeah.
So, student loan debt affects millions, even Clarence Thomas. But of course, Justice Thomas, I should say. But of course, the people most affected by this are the borrowers. The legal battles have left millions of student loan borrowers in limbo. More than half of the eligible people had applied for forgiveness before the program. It was halted by the courts. With the Education Department approving some 16 million applications, the department has assured borrowers that the administration will discharge the debt if it prevails in court, which that's why they should have acted quickly. They should have went deeper. They should have did this thing fast. But oh no, because it's helping working class people. So that's why. The chart, let's put up this chart, shows how much student loan debt weighs on the average American. Into the billions of dollars, trillions of dollars. Student loan debt in the United States now totals almost $2 trillion. And that is happening right now. And here's a kicker with regards to Justice Clarence Thomas, who is expected to vote against Biden's plan. Let's put up this headline. Clarence Thomas complained about his own student loan debt. Well, look at here, look at here, look at here, look at here. Well. In his 2007 memoir, My Grandfather's Son, Thomas wrote, "In the end, all Yale had to offer me was the tuition postponement option, a program in which the cost of student loans was spread across a class of students who repaid it as a group according to their means, with the greatest burden falling on those with the largest incomes. I don't know what else to do, so I signed on the dotted line and spent the next 2 decades paying off the money I'd borrowed during my last 2 years at Yale." Again, that is coming from the justice's memoir. So he gets it, but now he done forgot because he got the black robe and he's Justice Clarence Thomas now and not student Clarence Thomas. And with that in mind, you'd think he'd be more sympathetic to millions of people who are currently dealing with the burden of student debt. But oh no, that is not the case. Let's put up what my stunt double had to say about this issue. It's a shame that canceling student debt has become such a hyper partisan issue. And she's right. Most of those that applied and were approved are working people. Because you get these geniuses out there saying that it's helping ultra wealthy people, keep her up, when in fact, it will not help ultra wealthy people because ultra wealthy people don't have student debt. Jesus, Mary and Joseph. She goes on to say, at a time when inflation is high and 63% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, cancellation in fact means relief. Jackson, we need that relief. People need that relief. They know the people need that relief, but here we are.
And that's why they ain't giving it to them. Like you said, that's exactly why. And the Democrats had an opportunity to really pounce on this faster and quicker, as did the Biden administration. But again, this is an example of why we can't go for anything small, why we have to be the ones that are negotiating what we want. We can't just kowtow to whatever the conservative corporations have been getting their way for the past 40, 50 plus years now.
That's it.
So there's just really no argument to be had. We got to come in heavy. We got to come in strong. We can't take no for an answer. And if we do take no for an answer, it got to be because they already took a whole bunch of no's.
Come on.
Otherwise, this is where we are, you know?
This is where we are. But you know what, Jackson? Just because that's where we are doesn't mean that that is where we have to stay.
100%.
What is reality today does not have to be reality to America. I mean, tomorrow, America, let's do better. We know better, let's do better. But that is our time for today on Unbossed. Jackson and I are so glad that you spent this hour with us, this robust hour. Go ahead and phone a friend, text them, send a message in a bottle or some smoke signals. Let them know that one of the best hours of their day is spending their time right here on Unbossed. Now, you know what I want you to do about this time. I want you to keep the faith, always keep the faith. And I want you to marry that faith. Let it be swirled in the fight. Until next time.